Good morning. So this week we are going to get stuck into some art for our wider curriculum. And we're going to try and make it as normal and as the same as possible at home as we would be doing in school usually. So what we are going to do is we are going to be thinking about 3D art this unit. So something a little bit different. So what I want you to think about and brainstorm is the question on the screen. So what comes to mind when you think of the word sculpture? So just pause the video, have a go at mind mapping. What sort of things do you think of when you think of the word sculpture? Okay, so this week, we are going to be looking at our chosen artist. So our chosen artist for this unit of work is called Lucy Rye. So this is a picture of her. And here is a little bit of information about her life, like we usually do for our artist. So she was born on March 16th, 1902 in Austria. And she died April 1st in 1995 in London. So she was born in Austria, but she died in London. She studied pottery at a School of Arts and Crafts. In 1937, she won a silver medal at the Paris International Exhibition. And then in 1938, she moved to London to flee Austria from the Nazis. So that sort of links to some of our history learning that we did in term 1. She began making ceramic buttons and jewellery from her studio, and in 1991 she was honoured with the title of Dame Commander, so DCE. She continued into her 80s creating art, but multiple strokes stopped her from continuing, unfortunately. So she has studied art, created art for the majority of her life. Thinking about some of her works of art, we are going to be focusing on some of her pottery, some of her bowls and vases that she made. But she began with making ceramic buttons and jewellery from her studio, which we said. She was then joined by Han Cooper, and they continued to work together until Rye had to stop. So she liked to work together with other people. They worked on stylish ceramics, which was sold in leading department stores, so big shops. She had many exhibitions from London to New York, Europe and Tokyo, and even after her death, her work continued to be the feature of many exhibitions. So as well as buttons and jewellery, she made tableware, vases and bowls, which is what we are going to be focusing on this unit in this term. So if you have a look on the screen, we've got 4 examples of different pieces of her pottery, of her work, that we're going to be looking at in more detail today. So what we are going to do is you are going to have a strip of paper of the vases to print off. If you don't have a printer, then that's fine, but I would just label them 1, 2, 3 and 4 in your book, so that it's obvious which one you're talking about. If you do have a printer, you can print them off and just stick the strip, it's only a little strip, at the top of your book, and then write a sentence underneath each bowl. What I want you to write a sentence about is what things you notice, what you like, what you dislike about each one. So you might think about the different shapes. So if you can see, they're all different shapes, different colours used, the different textures. So you can see this one has a sort of coil to it in the middle. The other ones are sort of smoother. So I want you to explore and evaluate each picture and write a sentence about, or a sentence or a couple of sentences about each one. Some sort of things that you notice about them. Like I said, if you don't have a printer, then just label them 1, 2, 3, 4 and write your sentences in the right order so it's obvious which one you are exploring. So I would pause the video and have a go at doing that first of all, and then come back when you are ready. Okay, so now that we've had a little look at some of her works of art, we are going to extend our knowledge of her sculptures and have a go at making our own this week. Now, the first thing that we need to do is make a design. So we are going to use a technique called coiling to make our clay bowls. So we're going to make some clay bowls. We're going to use coiling, which is one of the techniques that was in one of the bowls that we just looked at. And it can create a spiral effect. If you have a look at the picture, sort of like this, you might have seen some bowls, some pottery, cups, things like that with the sort of spiral effect. So it's sort of like lined. Or using the same effect, if you coil it and then smooth it down, like on the bottom of this picture here, or you can see on the inside, you can get a smooth effect. So you can get either effect using this technique. And that's the technique, the skill that we are going to be practicing and learning with our clay this week. So it's up to you whether you want to do the coiling and leave it coiled like the top, or whether you want to smooth it out and make it like a more smooth bow at the bottom. It's completely up to you. It's your design. It's up to you what you want your finished product to look like. So we are going to take inspiration from Lucy Wright, and we are going to design our own coil clay bowl. It can be any shape that you like. So if you think back or flick back in the video to the pictures of her bowls, some of them were smaller on the bottom and bigger on the top. Some of them were bigger on the bottom and they went smaller at the top. Some of them were a curved sort of shape. So it can be any shape you want. Keep in mind that some shapes are going to be trickier to make out of clay than others. Once you've thought about the shape of your bowl, you need to think about the design. So the first thing you're going to do is decide what shape you're going to make your bowl, and you're going to draw that shape. You're going to sketch it out on a piece of plain paper, on a piece of lined paper, whatever paper you've got available to you. You're going to sketch out the actual shape, so whether you want it smaller on the top or on the bottom, whether you want it to curve, whether you want a sort of wavy line at the top of your bowl, whether you want it to be sort of flat round. And then once you've got that shape, you're going to think about the design, the pattern that you're going to get onto your bowl. So you can paint onto it. It's completely up to you. Now we are going to have to leave them to dry, so don't worry too much about getting paints and things like that yet. But what we're going to do is the design we want you to do is to fit into our topic of extremes. Now, you could take that however you want. So you could design a pattern, a pictures, to a colour scheme to go around the outside that is a desert themed. You might take inspiration from desert colours. You might decide to paint some mountains on the side of it. Anything to do with extreme environments is up to you. You can think about weather. You can think about actual climates, actual places. You can think about animals that live there. Go as extreme as you want. So once you've had a think about your ideas, you're going to draw a version of your design and add some colour to it. So coloured pencils, coloured pens, so that you can really imagine what it's going to look like. So at the end of this session, you're going to have a picture, a sketch drawn about what with the shape of your bowl, and then on top of that sketch, you're going to colour in and draw the picture and the design that you want to put onto your bowl once you have made it. Then what I want you to do after you've done that is just draw some labels explaining what you have chosen and why you have chosen it. So if you draw a label off explaining why you've chosen the colour, so maybe you've chosen oranges and yellows to represent the desert, so anything like that, so you're going to have a go at labelling it. So that's all we're going to do today, is I want you to think about your design. Think about how easy it is going to be to either get the design onto your bowl or to actually make the shape of it, and think about how hard you want to make it for yourself. And don't forget to label it at the end. Send us some pictures so that we can see what fab ideas you've had.